What's up, everybody? Chris Manning here. Evan Dammarell's with me. We're live here on YouTube, on Twitch, on other platforms, talking about the Cavs. We'll talk about some Ben Simmons. We'll talk about the coaching news on the edge of the roster and into the Canton Charge. We'll talk about other stuff. We'll take your questions at the end of this. We're planning on going for roughly an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. And we'll get to them later in the show. But first up, Evan, how are you on this Wednesday, September 22nd?
I'm pretty good, man. First, Judah is right in the chat. Shouts to Judah. He followed us on Twitter today. I was going to send you a screenshot of it, but I had to start setting up for the show. But it's a blessed day, man. We're already getting questions already, so this is going to be a good time. How are you?
We're 1 week away from Phoebe Bridgers, my guy.
That's true. And if the weather holds up, as long as it's not raining, but if it's this cold outside, I'm going to be a very happy camper the whole time because I love me some cool fall weather. And that's the other thing that made me feel like I'm in a good mood in general today, which is, rare because I'm generally grumpy about most things or cynical. But maybe it's just the gray weather. Maybe it's the rain pattering against my window. It's like I'm sitting there enjoying a nice cup of coffee. I'm full fall mode at this point. This is lovely.
Yeah, fall is IMO the best season.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm a winter baby, and I'm firmly of the mentality that it can snow on Christmas, and then after that, I want snow to go away forever. Like, I'm done. But my birthday's in February, and usually there's some apocalyptic snowstorm in Northeast Ohio. But when I turned 28, it was 20 great because there wasn't an apocalyptic snowstorm for once.
Well, it's, global warming, Evan.
Well, you're just fake news over here. But Chris, who is sponsoring part of today's episode?
Look, we're brought to you by Thursdays on the Locked On NBA podcast. That's Matt Moore. That's Jackson Gatlin. Locked NBA podcast host Jackson Gatlin and Matt Moore telling you whose NBA stock is up and who's down. Follow the Locked NBA podcast account today on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Evan. So we should start with Ben Simmons because I feel like we have to. So the latest news is just like the slowly continuing escalation of that news story about how he's not going to report the Sixers camp. We'll see how that goes. This is very much, we'll see who blinks first in a lot of this. I think, Tom Ziller and I think Bobby Marks both did really interesting articles this week about like star players asking out, and I know people can listen to this or hear us and read stuff on Twitter and get like all up in arms about Ben Simmons and how good he really is. I think Ben Simmons IMO is very, very good. Flaws. Obviously,
thinks he's the 28th best player in the league.
I mean, I don't think that's like crazy,
No, he was 16 last year. He just dropped 12 spots because of the playoff performance.
Yeah, like you can do some really interesting stuff, I think, with Ben Simmons on your basketball team. But I mean, there's been some people out in the dumb website that is Twitter.com, saying, oh, the Cavs are in on a deal for Ben. Like these people with sources. Saying that Ben Simmons there's a trade, that there's momentum, that, it's blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say, number one, no, I don't believe that is true. Everything that I sort of understand about this is that Cleveland is not a leader in the clubhouse for Ben Simmons by any stretch of the imagination. And secondly, if you're going to put that out there in hopes of getting people to retweet or tweet out like a platitude, as I saw one person do, that was just like, the Cavs are monitoring Ben Simmons situations, like no SHIT Sherlock. Like that's what every team in the league is doing in regards to Ben Simmons' status at the bare minimum. They're not doing their job if they're not doing that. Like, you have to also, I think, note that, again, this remains extremely complicated for the Cleveland Cavaliers to make a Ben Simmons trade. It was much easier to do I think the Prince deal would have made a little more sense just in terms of some facilitating there. Unless Kevin Love is going out, there's a lot of different things where what are you going to include? I still don't think that the kind of package Philly clearly is looking for is available from the Cavs. And you think you could do this exercise with Cleveland and I think Minnesota, if these are teams that need to loop in a third team to direct stuff to Philly to get Ben Simmons, it just becomes so complicated. I don't know where he's going. I don't know when this is gonna play out. I don't exactly kind of. It's obviously the biggest story in the league right now as we gear up to the season before we get back to actual basketball and everything. But like, I just still maintain that I think it would be pretty shocking, honestly. Like I would be floored, if the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to do a Ben Simmons trade. I just don't see it being a thing.
I would be too, especially if it's just a 1-for-1 trade. I don't think the Cavs have the assets and the ammunition. And like Chris and I chat, and he was sending some of these to me, and I just kind of chuckled to myself. I'm like, okay, I'll just share what I know. I think the Cavs' chances are suboptimal. Like, if you held a gun to my head, I think there's a 10 to 20% chance that the Cavs could pull this trade off, because let it be known that Kobe Altman, if he wants something, will go out and acquire the assets needed for the asking team, because that's how the Larry Markkinen trade happened, where they initially offered Larry Nance, and Chicago said they didn't want Larry Nance. They wanted a first and a second. So then they tried Larry Nance in a second, and they're like, no, we want a first and a second. So Cleveland went to Portland and said, hey, we'll give you Larry Nance for a first-round pick. They rerouted the first-round pick to Chicago, got Larry Markkinen out of it. We'll see how that works out. I think Larry's a great fit in Portland. I'm really excited to watch how that unfolds. There's two guys that get us now. So I think slowly but surely the city of Portland will be Browns fans, and it'll be the official like other Browns bar location is like the one in Portland. But I'm just, I don't know. I think if it's like a 1-for-1 offer, the Cavs just don't have the ammunition. Like, people are floating the idea of Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton instead of Kevin Love and Colin Sexton, and you keep Kevin Love on the roster, because I guess if you look from a team building aspect, you have more spacing theoretically if you keep Kevin Love on the roster. But at the same time, if you're feeling like that's such a huge downgrade from for Ben Simmons to get Ricky Rubio, who by all stretches of the imagination is a good playmaker, and he's like an okay player. Offensively, he's not the best shooter, so you're not getting like a huge shooting upgrade. And I think like the fit for Colin would be pretty ideal. Like, I've been kind of playing this out in my head over the last few days, but if you somehow paired Colin Sexton with Matisse Thybulle and Danny Green, and you play Colin at the 1, like right there alone, like that perimeter defense is lethal. And then you have Joel Embiid just kind of having more spacing because of it. I mean, that's not a bad place to be in to begin with, but I don't know, because there's also spacing concerns when you send Ben Simmons to Cleveland too. Like, I think this is a clear talent play if the Cavs are able to get him, but I think this is going to drag out for a while. Like, we're 5 days away from media day. Kevin Love is clearly back in the building, which we'll talk about that in a bit for the Cavs. So maybe he's working out to show that his Achilles is fine before they ship him off, or they give him the John Wall treatment. But at least for now, he's in Cleveland. Colin Sexton's working out in Cleveland. These guys are gearing up for training camp. I think the Cavs are pretty much going to stand pat and just stick with what they have right now and just kind of see what unfolds. But in all honesty, with the Rosas firing, I feel like in my heart of hearts, a Timberwolves trade may happen, especially if like the Wolves make like a rash decision to try and make a huge upgrade to get Ben Simmons, and that could be D'Angelo Russell and picks, or if the Wolves are foolish enough, they somehow include Anthony Edwards in the equation, which they shouldn't, but you never know. The Wolves are a very unstable organization, so it would be interested to see what happens there. But I just think Cleveland is at the absolute bottom of the list. Golden State's officially out, and Joe Lacob got fined $50,000 for it, which is still really, really funny to me. But other than that, I just don't think Ben Simmons is going to be a Cavalier. And like, we've been talking about this every episode. Like, I understand it's big news. Like, this is arguably one of the top players at his position in the league. If the Cavs got him, that's a huge deal. And like, it would be remiss of us not to talk about it. But like, we've spun this thread so many times that I don't know what else there is to talk about other than the fact that spacing wise, it would suck. But the defense between Okoro and Simmons on the perimeter with Allen manning the paint and possibly Mobley as well, like, good luck scoring on that team. But Darius Garland and Lauri Markkanen are going to be working overtime to be providing spacing to make the rest of those guys work offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to someone that was like, I think it's like a 1% chance or lower that like Ben Simmons is traded to the Cavs. And again, maybe something can happen. Maybe that like this, maybe like I think some of the intel, like again, like I think people have to remember that like sometimes like people even within organizations know very different things. I mean, I think part of the difficulty of doing reporting, and I think specifically doing news breaking when like a lot of the news is the transaction news, I should say, specifically kind of ends up in sort of a couple of key spots there. Like I think you often have to, it takes a lot of time to build up stuff, and a lot of what you may hear, a lot of what you may be told often can be sort of like, I don't want to say like not real, but like it's to quote Obi, it's from a certain point of view. Like it is from a certain perspective. And like, again, like I just think if you think about this practically, if you think about a Ben Simmons to Cleveland trade practically, at the end of the day, it is not really a thing that screams like it makes some sense. The one that if we're looking at a team that I think would be like it makes more sense.
Are you saying
like,
makes some sense in terms of asset accumulation for Philadelphia? Because it makes total sense for Cleveland to get Ben Simmons if he's available for
like Philly has Joel Embiid, who's like 28 years old and in the middle of his like he's locked up and stuff. But like you have to win now with Joel Embiid. Like the time is now to go for it. Like,
and the shelf life on his health is
you can't take
ideal.
it. Yeah, you just can't take it for granted. So like I like you're not gonna. Like Sexton and stuff is not necessarily like the win all in kind of chips you want to trade away Ben Simmons, even if you feel like that's the thing you need to do. So it's kind of tricky. I think like I wouldn't be surprised like Toronto ends up being the thing. Just like Goran Dragic can be more easily traded at the beginning of October. You know,
I really like the Dragic pick. Like you floated that idea to me yesterday. I think time is a construct in my eyes right now, but Dragic and Philly would make a ton of sense. Would it just be Dragic?
But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought enough about it. We can go check out Locked On Raptors if you want more of that.
Check out Locked On Dinos.
Yeah,
but
I just like this is like until if Ben Simmons had been traded for Cleveland, we'll do a whole Ben Simmons week. I have nothing else to say about Ben Simmons and the Cavs. Like I am tapped out.
We'll eat nothing but Australian dishes, and
Evan will eat a whole jar of Vegemite on the air.
I've had Vegemite. Have you ever had Vegemite before?
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's foul.
We'll drink a Foster's.
Foster's is awful too.
Yeah, but like I'm just coming up with generic Australian food, Evan.
That's fair. We can get Macca, which is just McDonald's. So there's a bright side.
We'll hit up Deli through his camp and be like, hey Deli, like what should we
avocado toast?
He'd be like, yeah, just eat some avocado.
Avocado toast with olive oil, salt, sea salt, and a little bit of lemon. It's actually a delicious dish, but I always think of Della Vedova whenever I see avocado toast on the menu at some place. I'm just like, Deli would smash this plate.
Well, TBT, best avi toast recipe. You get the English muffin from the Dave's Killer English muffins, supporting prison labor or people coming out of prison to get them jobs in the bakery. It's really good stuff.
I would say, like, excuse me, you just like someone clip that. That's Locked On Cavs out of context. Supporting prison labor. You got me as well too.
Look up Dave's Killer Bread. It's good stuff. And half an avocado split between the two sides of the muffin, and some everything but the bagel seasoning. That's all you need. I'm telling you.
It's good. No, the everything bagel seasoning is a game changer too.
Well,
you can get it, like,
you know what else?
Yeah.
Well, you know what else people need? It's the only thing people need.
DirecTV.
That's right. Look, does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. And it's a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV. DirecTV Stream, excuse me. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is also brought to you by Sleeper. In 2018, the fantasy sports experts at Sleeper realized that fantasy basketball was broken, much like my heart when Chris's mom told me that we had to just be friends. Games were being won and lost based on whose players had more scheduled games.
I'm going to interrupt this real quick. Can't wait to talk to Ellen in person next week and just like ask her how she puts up with you, because She's a saint for that, honestly. Continue.
God works in mysterious ways. Games were being won and lost based on whose players had more scheduled games that week. It made no sense and required very little strategy. So, in 2020, Sleeper released a brand new way of playing fantasy basketball. It's called Game Pick, and it's only available on Sleeper. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game per week for each starter to count towards their team's total score, ensuring an even number of games played between opponents. The day of losing because your opponent's players simply had more scheduled games to play in that week are over. The day of mindless daily busy work are over. The days of giving up halfway through the season because of that busy work also over. In game picks, you pick one game per week for each player based on player matchups, home versus away, opponent's defensive ranking, pace of play, and more. All that adds up to more strategy and less busy work. Whether you prefer redraft, keeper, or dynasty, Game Picks has you covered. Sleeper cracked the fantasy basketball code. If you play fantasy football, if you prefer building out a weekly strategy versus daily busy work, you're going to love Game Picks. Download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed. Sleeper's one-of-a-kind Game Picks is the most strategic fantasy basketball experience in the industry. And it's just super cool. I use Sleeper for fantasy football, and I think I'm going to set up a fantasy basketball league because of this.
Be fun. Maybe we'll do a Locked On Cavs listener league if people are interested. We'll do like a raffle and do one. I can't manage really one team. That's too much. But Evan, let's move on here. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to like do Kevin Love stuff? Do you want to do?
Oh, I love to talk about. Let's talk about other things we were tired of talking about. Kevin Love.
Yeah,
I haven't checked socials at all, but I'm sure there's a bunch of man babies on Twitter right now having a meltdown that Kevin Love is at Cleveland Clinic court shooting uncontested jumpers by himself. And I just want to know why. Like, what did Kevin Love personally do to you? Like, people say, like, oh, he stole that money, he should give it back. No, the Cavs offer that extension and Kevin Love intelligently took it. It just didn't work out the way it did. I'm personally sad to see this is how things went. Contrary to popular belief, I know Kyrie and LeBron were vital to that team's success, and Dan and LeBron will never really have a good relationship. And the Kyrie and the organization, I think Kyrie smoothed a lot of things over after that game where Colin absolutely cooked the Nets' big three during their debut and saying like, oh, I have nothing but fond memories in Cleveland. But I just want one member of that championship team to be on good terms with the organization. And right now, Kevin Love's like already on thin ice to begin with because he's frustrated with the situation, but it goes both ways. Like, I don't think he's going to go anywhere unless he agrees to a buyout. And I don't think the organization is really too keen or happy about giving him that extension with the power of hindsight. So maybe he makes the most of a crappy situation at this point. He accepts the fact, at least according to Jason Lloyd, he's accepted the fact that he's resigned to more of a bench role, maybe playing 15, 20 minutes a night. And in theory, Kevin Love, when he came back from injury last year, his calf injury, was bombs away from three. He didn't make a ton of them, but he increased the Cavs' three-point attempts, which is a welcome sign. And if you bring in Markkanen as the starter for now, and you have Mobley coming off the bench with Kevin Love, and you play either Mobley as a 4 or 5, and you play Love as a 4 or 5, like theoretically, that spacing that Love provides will make Mobley's life a hell of a lot easier because I don't know if you paid a lot of attention to the Cavs, but yeah, Kevin wasn't making shots, but defenses still respected the fact that he can take a three and make it at any time. Like he has gravity on the floor.
Yeah, he's like a name brand kind of thing defenses to react to and prepare for because he's Kevin Love, NBA champion at a time, one of the very best players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, literally was one of the best at his position when he was traded to Cleveland and then got compartmentalized into a third fiddle role on the big three. So, and, just kind of came the butt of everybody's joke. I think it's mean tweets where he's like, well, something happened. Better blame Kevin Love. Like, yeah, I think it's funny, but I also just think it's frustrating. I think, like, you need to see how this plays out. I will be frustrated if Kevin Love doesn't have professionalism again. And, the cynic in me is kind of setting my watch to count up until Kevin Love has an inevitable meltdown. It could very realistically happen during that West Coast road trip early in the season when the Cavs really start showing their inexperience and youth on the floor. But yeah, he's had a lot of fuck ups since signing that extension. But I'm more sad than anything to see this is how it's going to end. Like, it's going to probably be a buyout or it's going to be a trade. He'll pen a really nice, thoughtful letter through the Players Tribune or something like that, and then move on and probably get bought out and then go play in like Brooklyn or with the Lakers. And then we'll just go watch the rest of the former Cavaliers have a happier time.
Yeah. I mean, number one, I thought the shirt, I love like when like they make, gear that has like the old school, like kind of vintage, like gym shirt that they would have in like the 70s or 80s, like with like the PE, like the kind of old PE shirt, kind of like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the kind of the tank he's wearing in that video, you know what I mean? Like with the very simple logo. I love that. I'm a sucker for that. So that look good. That's my
I like
biggest
those
takeaway
warm
from
ups a
that.
lot. Like Zerm was asking for them, but I'm like, yeah, I like those warm ups too. They look sharp.
Well, the other thing, it's like it's a Nike template because it's like the same like style of like those Hawkins Phys Ed shirts they did a couple years ago with Stranger Things. Like it's just template with smacking on other stuff. Anyway, but like that video to me just means like it doesn't mean anything. Like I still think like we're
contested shots in an open gym.
he's arrived in Cleveland is the news of that, so to speak, right? Yeah. Like that is it. That is really it.
We had either a listener or somebody who follows me on social who pointed out that Kate was talking on an IG live story that they're getting ready to head back to Cleveland from New York like a week ago. So this was going to happen.
Yeah, I just respect that someone's like sleuthing like Kate Box's Instagram stories. Like also like you were just like, oh yeah, Kate. Like you just referred to her by her first name, like y'all are pals.
Yeah, me, Kate,
eating avocado,
Kate, Kev, Deli, and everyone's babies and dogs just eating avocado toast.
Evan,
our best
they go to the
life.
marble room, and Evan just picks up the entire bill.
Well, like, I'm like, I walk up to our Locked On Cavs valet, and he's like, "Which Cybertruck, Mr. Dammarell?" I'm like, "I'll go with number 5 tonight," and then just forget to charge the battery, just park in the street, and say, "You know what? It's fine. It's for the kids," and then let somebody else plug it in and take it home. Lucky them. But Afro Loser in the chat points this out, and I want to talk about this real quick. At least the divorce of Kevin probably won't be as messy as the one with JR, because I don't think Kevin is going to have quite the meltdown JR will. But at the same time, he could be shown the door like JR, much like John Wall has been shown the door by the Rockets. But with the difference being that Kevin is still allowed to practice and get treatment for probably his nagging calf injury from Cavs doctors, where JR more or less was told to kick rocks, and he went back to New Jersey, quit drinking, and now he's a college man. He's about to finish the 4.0. So the J.R. Smith college success story is like one of my favorite things from towards the end of 2021.
Yeah, the other thing that I'll say is if I remember correctly, JR's last time in the arena was last time I saw him in the arena, it was like Jordan Clark's doing media availability, and he was drinking a Coors Light like off to the side before he left.
Just keep
the other thing is like, look, like it might not be as like ugly as that. Like I think the PR will be seemingly like handled better here and on both sides to some degree, but like, I mean, it's already kind of ugly and uncomfortable. And look, like like you would hope that in time, like time will heal all frustrations, but like, it's not like JR like or maybe it's better now. I don't know. But like, it wasn't that long ago that he wasn't like necessarily like him and the Cavs weren't on like good terms, you know? Because of how things ended. Like, I don't think like there's necessarily like going to be like kumbaya. We're going to be best buds right away between Kevin and the team when it's said it done. Like, I don't think we're there with that. So I don't know, but we got to take another break.
We do.
Pay some bills, and I'm going to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. So Built Bar, everyone knows, wouldn't be Locked On Cavs episode if we didn't have a Built Bar ad, and they're the best tasting protein bar ever. Cookie dough right now, by the way, is back in the store, so go order that, and you should use the promo code LOCKED15 to save 15% on that order, that massive order of cookie dough Built Bars. They have a ton of other great flavors: coconut, raspberry, salted caramel, a bunch of others. And if you want to try mix box, you haven't tried them or just want to try them all, you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors in one box. And check that out. Remember, 17 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Order today. Get that cookie dough or that cookie dough or that cookie dough. Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team as well. So go to Built.com, promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. Again, it's LOCKED15 for 15% off at the Built.com.
We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100%, yes, that is right, 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Do not forget to use promo code NFL100 and also use promo code LOCKEDON. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports action, and they're also the exclusive betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network.
All right, Evan. So let's talk about some of the coaching news. We got some news this week that the Cavs are having a little bit of in-house switcheroo here. Dan Giroux, who's an assistant coach last year, you may have seen him on some of like the halftime interview segments that they do on Bally.
Was he on the chase down? Which assistant was on the chase down?
Think so. You're asking me to memorize what Justin Rome's doing on a day-to-day basis. Not that I don't have time for that.
Well, Justin Rome's a man of many talents, anyways, Dan Giroux is the head coach of the Cleveland Charge.
Let me.
I keep calling him the Canton Charge whenever I'm writing like emails or like typing something up too, and I'm like, no.
So Dan Giroux was an assistant, did a lot of really good player development work. That's kind of one of the things he's known for, which is why this sort of makes sense. He's going to take over as the head coach of the Cleveland Charge. And Nate Reinking, who has been the head coach of the Charge for several years now, I believe he succeeded Jordy Fernandez, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, but I think he's been there since Jordy left. Is going to come up and join the staff for the Cavs. So, Evan, what struck me about this, and first kudos, the team announced this on Wednesday. Kudos to Chris Friedworth, Cleveland.com, who reported this first on Tuesday. Broke the story, which is good for Chris. One of the things that I'll just say about that
himself
caused me to get an argument with someone on Twitter, which is just bad vibes. But one of the as you treated there, you son of a bitch. One of the things that I think strikes me about this is that I think this is in theory, and this isn't to denigrate Reinking, who I've talked to a bunch of times. There's actually old episodes of the podcast where you can hear Nate on them a long time ago. Don't know if they're worth listening to now, but they exist.
This was life before the Shure mic for Chris Manning. He's embarrassed about any episode he's recorded with anyone before it.
I'm embarrassed about anything I've ever said on a microphone because that's just who I am. But he's a really smart guy. Works with the Great Britain national team, and I think is a good coach who's done a really good job. But what I would seem to think here is that you move Giroux over there. They've brought in other people on the back end of the Charge executive staff in recent years, like someone from Israel, and Gainsey obviously was Mike Gainsey, who's now Kobe's right-hand man in the front office, who used to be the general manager of the Charge, back when the year that Larry Sanders had that little dip into the G League waters with Canton.
Fun times.
Yes. The thing that I think about the thing that I feel about this is that I think that what you're saying is you're going to take Giroux, who's a young coach, who's a lot of player development, is that in theory, this could mean that you're going to try and integrate this a little bit better. This is someone you're keeping in-house. They're going to play obviously in Cleveland now at the Wolstein Center. I tend to think that this is something where it's Giroux is going to work with a lot of guys hands-on, the integration, because he already has these relationships with the guys you have. You just bring in Reinking, who's I think a good coach, and he's still going to Giroux is still going to be around, and you have this I think better ecosystem. And if you're going to actually use the G League to its max capacity, this isn't something that's going to pay off in 2 years, maybe not for a couple of years. It's hard for me to know exactly what the runtime on sort of your payback is going to be on this. But I think if you're actually investing in it in this way and trying to more integrate it closely with the team and put a guy that JB knows, that the organization knows as the head coach, I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And if you look at it, Reinking is I guess a combination of him and Sidney Lowe are going to be the replacements for the absence left by Lindsey Gottlieb in terms of player development. I think Sidney Lowe is also really helpful because he has a really wealth of experience in terms of being a
Yeah,
head coach at the NBA
he's like
level and
the
the
kind of
collegiate level.
he's like the old head
So
on the roster
weirdly.
in a lot of ways. Because a lot of the assistants the Cavs have are pretty young. Like JJ Outlaw, who does a lot of Darius Garland's development work, is very young, and coach of the summer league team. Obviously, Antonio Lang's on the younger side. Like Lowe is probably the oldest guy on the staff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he is, unless, because JB is 47, 48. Like, this is a very young coaching staff. This is a very young team. I think there's going to be frustrations and growing pains no matter what. I think it's going to be the same way on this coaching staff as well. Like, did Jordy spent time as an assistant with Cleveland, but like a very low ranking assistant. Then he went down to Canton and worked his way up the ranks and became the head coach after, I believe Alex Jensen left to go coach in Utah. Just the Charge are actually kind of like a pipeline for some pretty gifted young assistants. Like, there's some good assistants that have come out of the Cavs nucleus, and that's through the Canton Charge. But I absolutely agree. I think player development is going to be paramount. I think the Cavs utilizing this properly, like, this is a good situation for Dylan Windler, who's returning from injury. Like, if the Cavs can't find him minutes right away, they send him over to the Wolfstein Center and let him play 25, 30 minutes a night if they feel comfortable with that, to kind of ramp him up and get him ready for, like, with some conditioning, because yes, it's not NBA level, but it's still professional level basketball. It's better than him wearing a suit every night or wearing his warm-ups, sitting on the bench and not playing at all. Or you have a guy like Taco Fall who may make the final roster, but Broderick Thomas is a two-way guy and still befuddles me. But I guess maybe that summer league performance didn't turn the Cavs off too much. And I talked to one exec in the Cavs front office, and they always say there's layers to a lot of these things. It's really easy to crystallize stuff at the moment, but I don't know. So I can't judge the Broderick Thomas signing too much, but like Taco Fall will be an option down in Cleveland as well. Like, I think that'll just make it a lot more fun to go cover Charge games. Like, if there's like a dead night, the Cavs on the road, and like I don't want to stay up late and cover them, maybe I'll go cover a Charge game or something. I'm just interested, and I think I'm going to go to his media availability on Saturday and just ask Joe straight up, like, do you think this is an avenue now for the team? Like, the team has used the Charge in the past, but like there's a decent distance from Canton to Cleveland where like now you can send guys like right next door to the Wolfstein Center. You can have them work with the team. You're keeping them all in the same ecosystem and system in itself. I think they're going to be using part of Cleveland Clinic courts to practice as well. So like they are in the Cavs greater nucleus at this point. So I'm interested to see what they do with that and how they go about it. I think them having open tryouts is kind of a neat thing too. So like there maybe some like local kids
Well,
can show
I
up.
mean, the open tryouts is like a thing they've done for a while. Like that in itself isn't new.
Chris, it's okay. You can keep it chill. We all know you're going to show up and try out.
I'm absolutely not doing that. That sounds awful.
They're going to interview you like, how do you feel about prison labor? And you just go, so then, yeah, I think it's an interesting development. I think it's a good call. I think Jarreau will be. This is a good experience builder for him too, because you don't want to throw him into the fire of making him a lead assistant, because then I don't know, you don't want to do him like a disadvantage for sure. Like if you look at it from a player development standpoint, like Lindsay Gottlieb was that. Like before she took the Cleveland job, she was strongly considered to take the Iowa Wolves head coaching job, so she would be running the Timberwolves G League development program. But she took the Cleveland offer instead. So if you want more NBA coaching experience, like you go down to, I guess this would be like AAA at this point. You go down to AAA, earn your stripes, and you can come back up and either interview for a head coaching job or really be like a lead assistant and fully have a grasp of how to like, and find what your niche and your role are in this league too. Like you could be a big man player development coach, a wing development coach, a guard development coach. You could be an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. You could just be the vibes guy like Steve Nash. Like there's so many options out there. And I think this is a really good opportunity for Jarreau. I really think this is a good opportunity for the Charge. I really do think this is a good move overall.
Yeah, I would also just note that I tend to think that we don't exactly know, like, I think what the sort of level and integration and everything that goes along with the G League sort of is. Like, I think, like, I don't think that nut has been cracked yet. We don't exactly know how, like, a real kind of minor league works for the NBA because, like, guys come to the league so much younger. I mean,
there's limited
examples
it's just properly utilizing it too. Like the Heat, pretty good example of it.
Yeah, and like I think Toronto, is another really good example of it. Yeah, and I think Cleveland and moving everything to Cleveland instead of Canton is going to be it's also clearly like a business thing. Like I think you're trying to make it a more viable like economic thing for your organization. But like this is never going to be like an apples to apples thing where it's like the NFL has that has the college football, and like that is your integration. Like Major League Baseball, they have the wage suppression is a whole other severe issue with minor league baseball, but it's like you have that system in place, and guys get time to play in the minors and develop. Like the NBA, it's like you don't get that. And when guys kind of going to happen is like the really interesting young guys that go to the G League are going to go to the Ignite probably, or maybe there's a Ignite 2 or another name that they come up with. They're going to be based in Cali or New York or somewhere. That'll be those teams. And then you'll have guys do NIL. Like I think you'll see more guys like Amoni Bates taking like graduating early, going to 2 years at a program and collecting NIL money. And that's I think the path for like a successful G League pro NBA is not to develop like your next star player, although that's gonna probably happen at some point. Like you're gonna get a guy that's been developed through the G League in your organization that like pops in a really meaningful way at some point. Like it's bound to happen at some point that I don't know, but I think you'll see like if teams can develop successful G League programs, they will be able to develop lower drafted guys that maybe don't have the pedigree of like a first round pick or whatever. Maybe guys that came back from overseas or something, and turn them and help them develop into like rotation guys. Like I think that's where you're trying to get to with your program and make it successful. And it's going to be guys in that, 20 to 24, 25 range, kind of that prime player development, kind of the end of that. If you're going to 25, kind of when teams have been shown a willingness to kind of develop and help guys add skills. But Evan, we're going to pause here now. We're going to come back and we're going to move into the Q&A section of this live. So we're going to pause, drink some water, and we'll be right back. Got Evan itching his eye. We're back. Evan, haven't talked to you in a while. How are you?
Yeah, I know it's been a while, man. Are we going to lead right back into the intro because we have a point that we missed in the first half that we should probably talk about in the second one. So,
which is what?
Did you see that? According to Jackie Mack, Steph Curry is a huge Darius Garland fan, and
I did.
To Darius to mentor him.
Yeah, that was like a nugget on the Simmons pod. Shouts to Pearl Jam, but that's cool.
But first,
that's a cool
Locked
nugget.
On Cavs.
Yeah, we're gonna Friday's Locked On NBA, by the way. Check that out. Really good pod. And hosted by Adam Matas and Nick Angstad. So go check that out wherever you get your podcast. But let's play a little intro because now first Locked On Cavs, so I don't totally ruin Evan's joke.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Evan. So let's take some questions.
Again.
Yeah, obviously. Let's check some questions. This is just extremely problematic on my part. I apologize. Okay. Just not what you want.
Let's start with the top, the king himself. Hey, how you guys been? Excited for the season? I've been good, Judah. How are you? Yeah, I'm excited for the season, actually. I'm sure my mood will change considerably after staying up and watching the West Coast Cavaliers. And
early in the year.
Media Day feels like Christmas a little bit. I was excited for it last year, even though it was virtual. It'd be nice to see Chris in person again. It'd be nice to see a couple people in person again. Like I haven't seen friend of the pod, Spencer Davies, in a while. And just, it's going to be different. It's going to be interesting, but it'll be fun. And, we'll explore it together.
Yeah. I'm excited, but I could use like another week or two.
Yeah, I was talking about this with somebody last night, and I'm like, yeah, it snuck up on me fast this year. Like, so did Browns season. Like, the Browns just kind of came. I'm like, oh my god, it's the shortened preseason. I blame it on that, but
yeah.
But
It's just
You
like
feel-
it
you
really
feeling
is
good?
snuck up, and like I don't know. I'm old and I like having time to breathe a little bit, you know.
Oh, I do too. We've been doing a lot of that lately, and I'm actually like physically old. Like I'm spiritually aging 5 years every time I talk to Chris Manning because of your effect. But
Thank you. I appreciate that. That means I'm doing my job.
yeah, you've changed me a lot in this time to get that we've known each other. I was bright eyed and bushy tailed, like, oh my god, it's Chris Manning. I read his work and I'm a huge fan. And then you wouldn't respond to my emails, and then we finally meet face to face. I love like
Well,
Afro
I will
Illusion, the
say,
chat said the Locked On Cavs lore keeps expanding. Like that's our origin story though, is like I harassed you via email for like a
well,
month straight.
Justin Rowan, he deserves credit.
Oh, did he say
I'm
something to you?
Yeah, he vouched for you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, Justin's a good guy. He also, speaking of Rowan, add this to the Locked On Cavs lore. He also said that you got his sloppies because he grabbed me for the chase down before you could even have me on as a guest, because I announced I was co-hosting with you, and then he had me on the chase down that night immediately, and then you and I recorded the following day.
I mean, Justin, go watch some inferior Canadian football, Justin. I know you listen. All right,
man,
guys.
they have beer snakes in the Bombers games. I think that's pretty neat. College and me appreciates that.
Justin posted a picture.
I watched an inferior football team for 5 years in college.
Wow, it took you 5 years. Okay, so
I took a year off to go on co-op, you troglodyte.
I didn't know. I usually do sound. Do I usually sound exhausted?
Well, I used to be told I sound like a librarian, and I told again somebody last night that I'm like playing a character sometimes because I'm like really on, but I'm gonna be so tired by the time we're done. But no, you don't sound tired. You sound like Chuck Manning, good old Chucky Chuck. Oh, the child. But let's get into some other questions. This is from Patrick Self. It's loading. Oh, okay. That's the wrong one, but let's try this again. There you go. If you had to look into a crystal ball, do you think Sexton will remain with the Cavs long term? This is a tricky one. I want to say yes at this point because the teams that wanted to trade for him moved on. Like I know Miami and New York were firmly in it. I think Oklahoma City could still be a dark horse option if the Cavs just do not want to pay Colin and they do like a sign and trade or something like that. And
can we define long term first?
It's probably going to be a 4-year extension.
No, but I'm asking like how are we defining like a long-term future?
Within the next 2 to 3 years, will Colin Sexton still be a Cleveland Cavalier?
Okay, so I think the next couple of years seems more likely just because I think you just look at like what his market might be, and I think you just look at the mechanics of like heading into restricted free agency. It becomes really hard for those guys, especially someone who is good. And Sexton is good to switch teams. Like it would be like sort of a change in how restricted free agency has worked for teams if like Sexton gets to restricted free agency and then gets like a Chandler Parsons like team poison pill contract. Like those types of things are just less common right now.
Signing a contract in a nightclub with Sam Presti. Does Oklahoma City even have a nightclub?
Yeah, don't be smart to Oklahoma City. I'm not a city.
Do they have a crazy horse like Cleveland?
They have the haunted hotel. They have. Oh, okay, Evan, have you?
All right, Zach Baggins, calm down.
I'm trying to see if it's on my bookshelf or if I.
That was like the meanest. That's the meanest thing I've ever called you. Is calling you Zach Baggins.
I'm just ignoring you, honestly.
Do you know who Zach Baggins is?
No, I don't.
From Ghost Adventures?
No.
The show on. Okay, so while Chris is searching his shelf, fun fact: I love haunted stuff, and I really get into it, and I think it's all real. If like you hear like a ghost go like it's like a little static noise, like you see like a little speck of dust fly across the screen, I'm like, oh my god, it's a spirit. Or like they send, the funny thing about Ghost Adventures is like they have like this dopey cameraman named Aaron.
Okay,
they go to like legitimate like haunted devil stuff, and they'll put him in that room and just lock him in there for the night. And I'm just like, this poor guy. Like I would quit if the money wasn't good.
Okay, so here's the thing.
What are you gonna show me?
there's Oklahoma City. I understand people will be like, oh, like, weird team, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. This book, Boomtown, okay, it's by Sam Anderson. It is nominally about
Boomtown's a great book.
Nominally about like Russ. There's a lot of Russ, KD, Harden stuff in there. It is also just like how insane his founding was. Just go read that book. That's my recommendation. Oklahoma
City of Oklahoma City or the Thunder, because
all of it.
Clay Bennett lied to Seattle.
Well, all of it is like this the part of the book, and the structure of the book is that Oklahoma City is just like chaos in a lot of ways, and I'm all for that. So I also just love a good book. So go read that book. It's really good. Probably my favorite book I've read in the last couple of years, like by a wide margin.
Honestly, I wish we finished the book club, but Boys Among Men is like one of my favorite books we've read in a while. Like I highly recommend it to like if you guys want to read a good basketball book and read about how like not every high school, because they talk about the success stories like Kobe Bryant or Tracy McGrady and stuff like that, or they have like plenty of, and Dwight Howard too, like Dwight Howard and LeBron being the biggest examples of in recent years at least, but like they talk about so many failures and how like these kids failed and how like the college system fails. Like it's such a fascinating story filled with so many book filled with so many stories in it that like at first it starts a little dry and then it turns into like a legitimate page turner. She's like, oh my God, this is getting crazier and crazier. But Chris, this is a good question. It is from.
No, we should, Evan. Well, we should take a break.
Oh, we'll take a break. We'll answer this. Sorry, good question. We'll be right back.
Yeah, that's a good tease. But we're kind of running long into this second segment. First, I gotta tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. That's what we do here. Built Bar is awesome. The best tasting protein in the market. They have cookie dough back, so go order cookie dough before it goes away. You don't know when it's gonna come back. You don't know if it's gonna come back. Go order those cookie dough Built Bars. Amazing flavors like cookie dough, like coconut, like orange. That's going away soon. Strawberry also going away soon. Cookies and cream, a favorite of Evan Dammarell. Evan, I might bring you a Built Bar to the Phoebe Bridgers concert next, by the way, just as a little snack, kind of keep you from being peckish out in the world.
We can quite literally do a social photo shoot. I'll wear so much branded stuff that like, I somehow got affiliated with, put like a Bud Light seltzer in one hand, a Michelob seltzer in the other one, put a Built Bar in my mouth. It'll all be great.
It'd be absolutely gross. Anyway, though, get a mixed box if you haven't tried all of them. And again, 15% off at built.com right now for 15% off your next order of Built Bar. So go do that. Again, that promo code is LOCKED15. Sorry, locked on. Excuse me, is the code. Locked on is the code. And Evan, this question is what?
This question is from CTM2187. If you guys are answering Q's, I'm just getting into the NBA and figuring out which team to go for. Why should I support the Cavs? It's a good question. We were on Locked On Auburn. It's not Locked On Auburn Tigers. And Zach Blackerby asked us like, why should we become Cleveland Cavaliers fans other than Isaac Okoro playing there? Like, I think it's an investment. Yes, historically, this Cavs team is dysfunctional if LeBron James, play-wise, dysfunctional if LeBron James isn't on the roster. They're dysfunctional no matter what. But it's a pretty fun, young, and exciting team. There's going to be a lot of growing pains this year. I pointed this out several times. Like, if you're a betting person, take the under on the Cavs record this year. It could be 21. The average age could be 21.5. They start Garland, Sexton, Okoro, Mobley, and Allen together on opening night. Like, that's a young team. That's an inexperienced team. Veteran squads are going to feast on them. Like, Ty Lue is going to make their lives hell when they play the Clippers in like 2 weeks after the season starts.
Jason Preston game, baby.
Well, I was gonna say I made a face because when we were talking about the Charge, the Charge don't play the Agua Caliente Clippers because they're doing like a pool system this year. So unless it's the G League bubble, you won't get to see Jason Preston play anything Cleveland. But I'm just saying I made of Jason Preston, a deeply reported Jason Preston feature coming soon. Is all I'm saying. Yeah, he's gonna frame his jersey after it too.
Well, that jersey is DJ Cooper / Maurice Endor. The jersey you're referring to. Well, it's also Leanne's fault that jersey's not folded and put in the box yet.
Oh, of course, typical.
She's listening. I hope she's going to get mad at me when I get off. Yeah, I can. But it's actually one time I actually can.
But it's like a long-term investment, I guess I want to say. Is like they have a fun, young, and exciting team. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, but I think this is a good time to get in on it too, where you can kind of your fandom will grow with this team, as cliche as it sounds, and you'll become more familiar with it. Listen to us. We're the #1 Cleveland Cavaliers podcast to keep you informed on it, because we're not going to be like fanboy shills. We'll talk about the good things, but we'll still be critical when things are bad. But yeah, no, I think the Cavs are a good team. But if you want to keep like an interesting team in your back pocket, I also don't blame you, because I think they're going to be pretty archaic offensively. But let's say like, oh, I've been a Cavs fan since they drafted Evan Mobley. People won't think you're a poser then, especially when like they're winning a championship in like 2-3 years after Ben Simmons comes here.
Yeah. I think that's a good reason. You got a lot of interesting young pieces. I think if you're looking at reasons not to, is just like this can be a very like bizarre organization and how to do anything. So if you want to pick something more stable, I can't blame you for that. And like if you're getting into league and you're fans of other sports, and like maybe like I've like when some friends of mine have like gotten into like soccer or like whatever. Like one of the things is like they'll pick like a team in Europe that's like really good, and so they're just like, I'm insulating myself from like having another like experience with like the Browns or whatever. Like that's how like I'm a fan of a Big Six team in England. It's not like I'm picking a team that causes me lots of frustration in Tottenham, but like like it is one of those things where it's like if you want to pick something,
I relate so hard right now. Them Spurs, man.
I know, yeah, go Spurs, go baby. But yeah, I mean. Anyway, I think it's a fun team if you want to hop on like a younger team's bandwagon. If I was gonna pick one team, I think I might pick like Memphis right now.
That's what I was gonna say. If you want to pick a young team and buck the trend and not like follow everybody else's lead, don't. The Cavs are the opposite of the Grizzlies. I was gonna say the Hawks, because the Hawks were an Eastern Conference finalist last year, and they have a ton of young players on the roster.
Also, you get to listen to you. That means you can listen to Locked On Hawks and hear Brad Rowland talk.
And hear Brad Rowland, the man who
Brad Rowland, that's
literally has probably like an IV drip of caffeine on him at all times.
Well, yeah. He's that guy. One of one.
One of one. But we should take another quick break. We'll answer a few questions. We kind of dawdled on this one a little too long, but I think it's an important question because I don't know. That's a big thing. Like, why would you want to become a fan of a certain team? Like, it's a good question. So let's hit park in the car real quick because I'm having some auto problems. And good thing, because this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts in their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto's prices are reliably low and are for every customer. They have everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find a solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On, and their How Did You Hear About Us box, they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Check them out today at rockauto.com. This episode of Locked On Cavs is also brought to you by BetOnline. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on the field to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the #1 source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, your online sportsbook experts, and the exclusive betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm really proud of myself. I stuck the landing on both of those ad reads with a stuffy nose, nonetheless.
Proud of you. This is a lie. I just want to say that this comment below is a lie. Just saying.
It's a lie. It's slander. Like,
we're gonna move on to actual question because that was a lie.
It's a question, dude. We can't just say some questions aren't actual questions.
I reject the premise. The whole premise is flawed. Everything about that was wrong. All right, so JF asked, do people just forget about Okoro? Stat predictions for the year. I'm not doing stat predictions.
That's a tough one because I don't know what his 3-pointers are going to look like.
Yeah, and I'm in the process of like detailing some stuff for another thing, but predictions,
I did a breakdown on it last week where I'm like, right now he could be like Jared Wallace or Justice Winslow if he tightens up a few things. You could get a different player here, but like,
Justice Winslow had like that one good year. That's kind of tricky.
I'm saying like rookie season, Justice Winslow is very comparable to Isaac Okoro, so like he could nosedive if injuries become a problem, or he could be like Crash. And like getting Gerald Wallace out of Isaac Okoro is a pretty ideal outcome. He just doesn't provide any spacing.
Yeah, I think when people say forget about Okoro, I think the reason that like maybe he's not talked about as much is just like Garland is poised, I think, for this really, really big leap, and he's flashy. Sexton scores a lot of points and is a highlight reel kind of player and very good. Allen just signed a big extension, has the dunks, has the blocks, and Mobley's a top pick and like is really intriguing. The thing about Okoro that I think is just like kind of inherent to him, but I think he's not a guy that is always like he has some poster dunks, he has some really impressive highlight plays. He's a guy that like a lot of what he does is like not it's just really solidly played basketball. Like it is technical. It is using his strength to like lock up a guy one-on-one. Like that is not going to get cut into a highlight you throw on Twitter. Like he's a hard guy. Like we don't use them anymore because we have the new YouTube intro and everything. We're trying to find a play for Okoro was not like the easiest thing to do in the world. Like I had a lot to pick from for Garland, for Sexton, for other guys. For Okoro, it's like there's only like so many plays that make get Michael like jumping out of his seat, right? Like there's only so many plays that like absolutely kind of pop off the screen and get him in like, you know, top 10 play consideration. So that I think that's kind of it for me. Just his style of play is not like something that is just like I think he's really good, and I'm all the way in on him, but I kind of think he's a guy that's not talked about in that kind of sense.
Instead of calling him new Crash, he'll just be no flash because Isaac Okoro doesn't provide a lot of counting stats. And I think that's the tricky thing too, is like, I don't want to make a definitive stat prediction because his numbers at Summer League were almost identical to what his numbers were his rookie season. So like, I can't firmly say like, okay, he has an improved 3-point shot, but like Isaac Okoro does a lot of those little things that super impressed me as a rookie. Like defensively, where like it's stuff you can't tangibly count in a box score, but it's also not going to really get you a shout out during like the middle of like a hype play call or something like that.
Only for me on every post game pod where I'm just like, can we spend 20 minutes talking about Isaac?
Yeah, let's break down the X's and O's of this one possession. Isaac Okoro shut the water off on somebody.
Chris Evan's just like, Chris, we need him. I'm like, no, but I really need to talk about this.
It's gonna be like the Larry Nance moment before when we were using Uber conference. Zoom, and I don't think we had cameras on.
That was Uber. That was still in the Uber conference days. Yeah.
Okay, so like you started talking about soccer, I literally like muted myself and was just scrolling through my phone and then like casually listening to the conversation. And as soon as you guys started wrapping up, I'm like, yeah, I know nothing about soccer, but
yeah, I mean, it's fine. When it's a little like things kind of calm like with COVID and stuff a little more, you should come hang out. We should go hang out at the Old Angle on a Saturday because that's a cool place and you can just like watch some soccer.
Okay, pip cheerio, mate.
Yeah.
So another question from the man Judah himself: who could the Cavs get for Rubio at the deadline?
Can I reframe this very slightly?
Sure.
I think we should ask like who's going to want Rubio.
A team that needs a backup point guard.
That's what I'm asking. Like, who are those teams?
I don't know. What if Rajon Rondo doesn't work out the Lakers or?
Yeah, that's just like a really tough salary situation.
Or Eric Bledsoe doesn't work out with the Clippers. Again, a tough salary situation, but the Cavs.
You're acting like Jason Preston's not right there waiting to step in.
Do you need to save him for the playoffs? They don't have Kawhi for the entire year. They got to rest Jason Preston for everything he's got.
Yeah, you got to really
Jason Preston, Paul George, Terrace Mann, Ivica Zubac. Like the league is so screwed.
Look, that's a vibe for me. Ty Lue, let's go.
I can see it's a vibe for me.
Miami might be a team where like they could maybe use point guard like they could follow D, especially like if Depot doesn't work out and stuff. That could be a thing. I think Dallas could make some sense in theory.
Or if like Campaign comes back to Earth and Phoenix and they really need to upgrade him, and like Ricky has a good relationship with the Suns, so
is I wonder if the Pelicans are also another option.
does David Griffin know any classic Spanish songs on the piano that he can play for Rookie when he arrives?
That story is wild.
Dude, that story, I was just like,
can't believe I'm gonna say can't believe I'm gonna say this, but number one, that's just a good use of reporting. Number two, I can't believe it's like aged well that like the Cavs didn't like keep Griff, because like he's not been in New Orleans, and
no,
the Alchemist thing in that story tickled me, because like that was like a Kyrie book that he carried around with him for a while. Like he just always had that book on him for a while. It was like one of the.
It's kind of, do you think Kyrie read The Alchemist, or do you think it's like LeBron where he's always like has a new book in the locker?
No, I think Kyrie actually read The Alchemist.
Kyrie's bored enough that he probably read The Alchemist, then he went on YouTube and watched a bunch of conspiracy videos, and then just really started tapping into that stuff. But like people, I don't know. I don't poo-poo Kyrie on that. People can have their interests. Like the whole mask off thing, like people were taking that out of context. I'm just like, it could be like, mask off is
okay,
quite literally a
we're
song.
Done. We're gonna get flagged, Evan. I'm done. We're done. New Orleans also did pay Devontae Graham, so like maybe he's not. Maybe that's not. I don't know. Like I think if there's a team that just screams, "Hey, we need a backup point guard," like maybe that's
the Mavericks. I don't know.
Yeah, Dallas and Miami kind of come to mind for me. It's like those to me are the teams. It's not about like who they could get. It's about like who's gonna want him more than like who they could get.
Philly as well if they don't get Dragic, because Dragic could still be an option for Dallas somehow, some way. Because I'm sure Luka still really wants Goran Dragic on the roster with him. Like I know they tried to make that push for him last offseason, and it just didn't work out. Like I really like that pairing. I'm a huge Dragic guy to begin with, but maybe Philly too, if they somehow, I don't know, like offer cheaper contracts and the Cavs just kind of get a poo-poo platter of poo and some picks for Ricky Rubio. And it just kind of works out that way.
All right, let's end on this last question from Elias Phillips, kind of in the spirit of a season preview kind of thing, because that's where we're headed towards the beginning of the season here. So Elias asks, could you see us making the playoffs or even the play-in? If so, what new pieces will help us get to that spot?
Well, real quick, JF pointing at the Bucks could be a Rubio destination too. I don't hate that fit either if George Hill doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think the money is just for all of these is
tricky.
Is the tricky part, because Rubio's on a decent sized number, and matching that is.
Let's just say the Cavs buy out Rubio because somebody trades for him. There's 29 teams that probably would want to sign him, and a handful of contenders.
Well, at least like contending teams. Well, I also want to note that I think next week, we should do a future cap space kind of thing, just kind of getting, because I've kind of been thinking about this last couple of days, and like the Cavs cap situation is never going to be super flexible, and I think we should just talk through. I'm going to write about that as well, but we will
quite literally some sports money right there for Forbes, my guy.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of a better successor.
I just like checks.
I know, but to answer the question, possibly a play-in team.
Yeah, but I find the phrasing of that question like they should be flipped. It's play-in or maybe the playoffs, not playoffs or maybe the play-in.
I think there may be a play-in team because the rest of the East is better this year.
The East is good.
Let's just talk. Yeah, the East is very good. You have the Nets and the Bucks at the top, like the clear two top teams.
There's no way. Okay, let's just start here. There's no way they're getting into the top six.
No. Because that's going to be the Bucks, it's going to be the Nets, and then you have like the Sixers, the Pacers are consistently good. The Heat are going to be there too because the Heat made a bunch of moves to get there. The Hawks will be in that conversation. They just made the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston will be there. The Knicks will be there. That's 8 teams already right there. Cameras are hard with my fingers. And after that, like I think Charlotte's going to make a big leap of LaMelo is the real deal, and I like some of the moves they made. Like I just like PJ Washington. I think the Gordon Hayward addition actually ended up working out really well for them. If Hayward can stay healthy, the Hornets will be in that conversation too. I'm personally intrigued with what the Wizards are trying to do with Dinwiddie and Beal. We'll see how if that situation doesn't become volatile. I think bringing in a new coach and a new fresh look on everything is really good. I think Rui Hachimura has potential to be a solid player. I just don't think he's the next Giannis like some people have said out there, but like the Wizards could be in the conversation too. Like they have a superstar shooting guard on their roster. Like there's a lot of teams that are good and teams that are getting healthy that the Cavs might just kind of get pushed out of the conversation, but they'll be treading water at the same time. Or like they're going to be a bad-ish team. Like there's going to be nights they look like world beaters, but this youth and experience is going to bite them in the butt. You're asking Ricky Rubio to be the leader on the floor. You're asking Jared Allen to be a veteran in the locker room. I guess Larry Markkinen technically could be a veteran because he has 4 years of experience under his belt.
He's old by the Cavs roster standards.
Yeah, it's weird. And like Colin Sexton could be a veteran in this locker room too because he has 3 years of experience. And Kevin Love doesn't want to be here, so I don't know how much he really wants to be locked into this. But I just think it's tough. I think the Cavs could be in that. Oh, Chicago too. Oh my God, I forgot about Chicago as well. Like Chicago would be in that conversation too. Like there's a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. Like not great teams, just good to solid teams in the Eastern Conference. That I just think the Cavs are going to try their damnedest to get into this conversation, and they're just going to miss out. And that's an unfortunate reality of the situation.
Yeah, I think just to say, like, succinctly, I think there's a big gap to make up in terms of like just what their net rating was last year to get to like being in that 10 something range, to be like, you know, like if you look at the top 7 teams in the East last year, all of them had positive point differentials. The teams that were in that 8 to like 12ish range all were like negative or like even, but like pretty close. And the Cavs and are much further down that list to make some of that gap up in terms of quality. If it's going to happen, I think it's because of a couple things. Garland just has a massive year and just ascends. Maybe he's like a legit most improved player candidate this year, something like that. I think Okoro takes a big leap. I think Sexton has to be like more dynamic, like just hits another levels of score that I think unlocks things. And it's going to be Mobley being really good from day one. Like I think like if this team is going to work, it is going to be like some of the veteran guys you have. So Rubio, Markkinen just being a hell floor spacer that isn't like, you know, is able to play. Availability will be huge for him. Like if that kind of stuff breaks for you, that's great. But I think it comes down to like, can you be fueled forward by your young talent, and can you make it all this roster that's kind of fit together? And like look, like there's a lot of little stuff that needs to grow. Like whoever is the backup to Okoro, the 3, like needs to be a stable player, or Okoro is going to be playing like a lot of minutes. But like I really think the reality is if Garland, Sexton, and Mobley all have these like really impressive years, I think those are and Okoro just as a shooter, but I think specifically just in terms of playmaking and draft pick stuff, Mobley, Garland, Sexton, if those 3 guys have massive years and Garland in particular, I think takes a massive step forward because of how important he's going to be as like the connector of everyone going on, because not the team's conductor in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. That's how it happens. It's on those guys more than it is anyone else on the team, I think, if they're going to get there. And it's going to be hard. I tend to think it's probably not going to happen, but I think it's possible if things break correctly. But that's the beauty of the season. We're going to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for them to be back. I think we'll have a full scope of what this Cavs team will be maybe after like the first 10 games. I think this West Coast road trip is really going to be a true test.
Yeah, I even want to give them I'm going to give them more than that, just because I think a young team having a West Coast road trip earlier in the season is just like absolutely.
Well, if I see how they respond to like that level of adversity that early into the season, I'm like, okay, maybe the Cavs are cooking with gas right now. Maybe they have stumbled onto something here that like I didn't see coming. But like Chris outlined, like you need leaps from like certain players and you need consistent bench production. Like there's a lot of variables at play here, and we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap there, Evan. It's been Locked On Cavs. We'll be back on Monday. I think you won't hear from us again. I think I'm deciding this now. We'll talk after media. We'll do like a big media day dump, maybe like a 2-parter that goes up Monday night and then Tuesday. But media day is Monday. Going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait to bring all of that great coverage to you. We're both going to be there in person, which is really fun. Get to see some friends, get to see like Mac Robinson's going to be there. Danny Cunningham, Spin, like going to be a good time.
They got quite the crew.
Yeah. Just wish third member of Bestie Squad was going to be there. Unfortunately not. Yeah. But until then, it's been Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris. He's Evan. We'll talk to you soon.